All right. Welcome to our another Friday night live chat here at the Paranormal Network. I am manager and sometimes investigator Jason Hewlett, and I'm once again joined by psychic Tracey Bach and Peter Renn, who you may know from We Want to Believe and Hunting the Haunted, a man with almost 3 decades experience in the paranormal investigative field. I just felt like saying that to make him feel old. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing
Cheers,
today?
mate. I'm
Also,
good.
welcome to Kyle Jarrett on Facebook. He is very excited to be here. Been waiting patiently and anxiously for this episode, which we're discussing the demonic. Now, this is a very popular topic, especially right now in the paranormal field. People, of course, there's various ideas of what a demon is, but if you've watched The Exorcist or the Conjuring films, you basically know it's supposed to be a supernatural being, typically associated with evil, which is basically across every religion on the planet, I do believe, has some interpretation of what the demonic is. Now, Peter, I want to start with you because you're actually an investigator for an ordained exorcist out of Washington State. So what can you tell us about what you know about demons and the demonic from that perspective?
I got approached, just give the audience a bit of a background. I got approached probably about 11, 12 years ago when I was a part of Vancouver Paranormal Society at the beginning. I can't mention his name. The father approached me and explained that there was a number of cases that comes up and down the west coast of North America that he needed like a source to actually go in there and basically analyze these cases to see whether they fit under their criteria or the Vatican Church criteria in relation to the various stages of demonic. He gave me some literature and I had some research material as well. And like I say, I've been basically doing it now for probably about a decade. I might be slipping here and there for a year because I lose track of years. But I have. But over the years, I mean, I've probably done on average, probably about 40 to 50 cases on his behalf. And then there was only the one which I mentioned in the book, that really kind of stemmed pushing it into that direction of what they deem as being demonic, as one of the first few stages of demonic possession and stuff like that. So me personally, I'm very, very skeptical about it. I believe going back like almost 3 decades ago, when I first started in the field, the word demonic was very loosely used, and it was always a subject based on more religion than what it was on TV and media than what we see now. Over the years, obviously the last decade with the various shows, we got like ghost hunts and stuff like that. I don't really speak of that, but then when Ghost Adventures and the show with Ryan Buell as well kicked off as well, that word became suddenly a household name where everything that was deemed as paranormal was also demonic as well, because people then and still have now a sense of the unknown, and they interpret what they see as what they see on TV kind of thing as demonic, because they don't know any different. But it's categorized out of control. Me personally, my own personal beliefs on it. Again, skeptical, but I would have to see it to believe it. In that respect, the cases, the case studies that I've seen over the years and I've read about with the actual demonic possessions, they're not like what you see on TV or anything like that. It's not Linda Blair spinning her head around, puking, sticking crosses in funny places, that kind of thing. It's nothing like that. And what I've seen, again, it kind of makes me skeptical, because I think that there's a missing element out of a lot of the things I've seen over the years. Science. I think that science has been missing a lot, and that's why I like working with his father as well. There is a strict regime about having medical evaluations and stuff like that before we get to the next stage. And again, it's like 99% of the time I get to that stage where you need to get this, you need to get this done, and we don't step over that threshold, because it would suddenly become it will become I have to take that extra step in order to do, to get myself analyzed, that kind of thing. And I'm not saying people make it up. It's just what's the stigma that what TV presents more than anything else.
Well, and there's a lot of it, and I'll get to you in a second there, Tracy, it's can very much, a lot of the symptoms of demonic possession can be traced back to mental health. They're very similar, like changes, you know what I mean? Or some form of psychosis.
It is primarily like there is 4 stages of demonic possession, and we, like us as documented investigators, we probably get to the second stage, which is oppression, before we start requesting that they have a mental, a medical assessment done on them. And again, it doesn't normally reach over that point after that.
So Tracy, and I know, being a psychic, how often do you come across things that are potentially demonic? Or so you said you had a story you kind of wanted to share with people from an experience.
Yeah, so I have a couple stories, but what I do now is I don't come across demonic things. It's kind of my rule that I just, if it feels yucky, if it feels like any kind of low vibe, like that's just not for me. I do know other psychics and other mediums that will totally go into that realm, or we call it the underworld almost. And that's just not for me. But I have had a few clients that, and it's funny, Peter, that you said the West Coast of North America, because I've had a few clients like California all the way up into Tawasin, so that real West Coast, telling me that there is like demons living among us, or not living, unliving among us, really, and that they have they present with a stench of like rotting flesh, and that there's this real I don't know, scary vibe to them, and that they have a mission, and that they're like, it's almost like an intelligence. So it's not like one demon is possessing one person. It's almost like a tribe, or it's an intelligent species almost of unseen realm. And so I've had that a couple times with a couple of clients where they are actually visibly and physically upset about seeing these things. For me, when I first started really getting into doing this, my work for a living, I was delving into all kinds of like ceremony. I was like thinking, okay, I got to figure out what my shtick is, not my shtick, but how I'm going to like present this to the world. And I do remember waking up one night in the middle of the night, and my arm was being pulled by an unseen sort of force. And I remember looking over, and all I heard was, "Thank God we finally found you," in this like very, very demonic voice. And I panicked. And of course I did all my prayers. I screamed, I yelled. And so was that a demonic kind of being? I don't know, but it sure as heck felt like it. It was really, really scary. And that's kind of when I went, I don't want to know about this stuff. It might exist, but I don't want to know about it.
That's interesting. And we got Renee Cruz from YouTube saying hello, Renee. And people who are out there watching, if you want to share a story you have or any comment on what you think the demonic is, please share it and we'll discuss it here on the program. We're on for about a good half hour or so. I had an experience kind of not quite like yours, Tracy, once. It was in a house that I grew up in. I'd taken it over. My buddies and I had drank and dabbled in Ouija, however you want to pronounce it, which isn't the best thing. This is before I started being a serious investigator. I remember I would hear at night sometimes footsteps in the house, like boom, 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 boom. And once lying in bed, like wide awake, or as far as I could tell, wide awake, and literally like a foot from my face, this thing just started growling at me, like in the dark, right? And I mean, too much liquor, too many horror movies, ramping myself up. I'm not sure, but that's kind of one of the two events I'd say is the closest to anything encountering like a negative spirit at all, right? But that's interesting to hear that there's people who think that there's a whole, I've heard, you and I, Peter, have heard the whole network, they're a network of beings idea. I think it was from Scott Moon, didn't we? Because who is a paranormal investigator.
It's interesting because Tracy, you talk about the deepened voice and the growls and stuff like that, and it's interesting, like kind of seeing it from my side of the fence, where a lot of the cases that particularly the case where I went those extra steps forward on it, they don't have the the 20 packs of cigarettes a day kind of growl, or the or they they don't have the that sense of kind of I don't know, that demonic kind of face or anything like that, the guy with the horns and stuff like that. And I'm not saying for 1 minute it was it was made up or anything like that, but the actual dynamics of demonic possession doesn't actually present itself as an actual being itself. It's more, again, and this could be where it's science related. It relates more to the actual person themselves. Like it's like that possession kind of, that person just sees it themselves kind of thing, more than what you see a deviled horn guy in the corner with a trident, that kind of thing.
Which I think is probably not, if it is real, that would not be the case. We got Kyle Ferguson here. Feeling of being held down in bed by an unknown force, no growling, just cold, and not being able to move. Demonic or just someone getting your attention? Tracy, what do you think?
Hi, Kyle. I don't know. It really, demonic possession or demons are really just like every other spirit, just like every other unseen realm being. It's in the eye of the beholder. So I really feel like if it's a fear-based thing, if people are thinking it's a demon, that's what it is to them. Like, it's really hard to tell the difference. Do we have like actual lists of what the criteria to call it a demon? But if somebody thinks it's a demon, maybe it is. I think in Kyle's case, I don't want to comment. I don't know.
What do you think, Peter? Go ahead.
If a client would come forward with those kind of symptoms, I guess, I would probably suggest that they look at things like sleep paralysis first, and things relatively pointed towards science and the medical field as well, before we start pushing down the road of it being negative. And he doesn't mention growling or anything like that. But myself, I had I had sleep paralysis when I was younger, and it screwed my head up in relation to a lot of things growing up in an old house and stuff like that. And it was very devastating at a young age. So if someone came forward, like Cole came to me and said, this is happening to me and stuff like that, I'd say go to if you've got sleeping problems or anything like that, or you've got something on your mind, go and see a specialist first before we start exploring the roads of possibly it being some kind of negative being, or it being paranormal, or Casper the Friendly Ghost.
No, and that's something, and I brought this up with you, Peter, and you were a bit shocked that Peter and I, because we investigate together a lot, have been accused of being too skeptical when it comes to the paranormal, but we try to rule out, like Occam's razor, rule out every other possibility first before we jump in to investigate a haunting. I've had my own sleep paralysis experiences as well that have felt very much like a very negative, like the old hag stories from out east, right? Very much being oppressed by something. And speaking of out east, we've got a fellow Canadian paranormal investigator, Doug Mumborquette, with us here from Haunts from the Cape. Welcome, Doug. Once again, if anyone has any stories or questions or comments, please bring that in. So one thing that has come up, like we mentioned at the top of the hour here, how the demonic has become the buzzword. Why do you think everything is just being tossed out as demonic? Do you think there's more of a shift towards maybe a religion in the last several years, or do you think it's just something that was sexy that you could use on a show and make it sound real scary without there actually being anything scary there, if you just allude that it's this thing going on? Who wants to take that one first?
I'll hand the mic to Tracy first. There you go.
Yeah. So I do think, like, our shows and our social media and all of that creates a buzz, and buzzwords drive me nuts. So any kind of buzzwords drive me nuts, but we're all it's kind of part of being in the paranormal world is that we're looking for excitement. The ubiquitous meaning globally, a lot of paranormal people are looking for excitement. And so what's more exciting than a demon? What's more exciting than being scared a little bit? It's like that roller coaster of paranormal. It's like, oh, there's definitely a negative energy. And so I know on a lot of investigations where I've been in a big group, it's like, oh, there's a negative energy there. There's a negative energy there. And it's like, when you go in looking for a negative energy, you're going to find a negative energy. And it could be just somebody's in a really foul mood that you're picking up on, like somebody that's living. So a lot of the demonic stuff, I also have to say that souls that transition or souls that move to the other side often will keep their personalities. And so if they were an SOB in this life, they're going to come across as a demon. So that's something that we really got to think about too. There's other part of the demonic is I really think it's a really nice excuse for bad behavior sometimes. I'm possessed, right? I'm possessed. This is not my fault. It's the ultimate in not being accountable.
That's interesting. I agree kind of with a lot of that, especially when it comes to different hauntings. I think I'll go with like if you're a jerk in life, you're a jerk ghost too a lot of the time, right? But you're also right. If you're a religious person, that's what you're going to experience and expect. Peter, what about you?
I kind of brushed upon it earlier on, but I think a lot of what's seen on TV and media over the past decade has had a huge influence on that word as demons and demonic and stuff like that. It was like almost 3 decades ago when I started, like in the UK, we never spoke of demonic, and it was always that kind of line in the sand where we knew about the Vatican, we knew about possession and stuff like that, but there was that line where we didn't cross over to that realm. And it got to the point where it was it became televised with Ghost Adventures and all the other shows and stuff like that. And then it's a common word in relation to the field. And I guess a lot of the times it's people's lack of understanding of exactly what could be a negative spirit, I guess.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to block you out, but we have a long comment here from a
Dominique. So that's all right.
That's okay. We like the long comments.
I've been a paranormal investigator since I've been little, and I believe there are people that have had some kind of black energy, is what I could describe. I've been to places where it's so haunted and the actual dwelling is infested with such bad energy. I experienced some demonic or abnormal beings, but I believe also that people who worship or deal with certain things I do not want to mention on here welcome it and attach it to them, but I pray for everyone here, and peace be with you all. Do you think there are places that are just more bad and negative than other? That's a dumb question, because we've been to places where you can almost feel it as soon as you walk in the house or the old building. We've been to residential schools where you can feel that energy, right? I find that very interesting. And actually, Doug here's got an interesting comment as well. It might sound funny, but TikTok is driving a lot of demonic possession claims, demonic Satanism, etc. I see it all the time on there. I don't TikTok. I refuse to TikTok, so I can't comment on that. But Peter, on Hunting the Haunted, we did like a top six fake ghost videos episode, and one of them was from TikTok, and it was pretty dramatic to look at, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's all theaterized. Sorry, it's sorry. Again, we're being skeptical and stuff like that. I mean, it's really hard watching things on anything, regardless of whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on YouTube or anything like that. It's because you put everything into one basket in relation to everything you see, because you can achieve anything with any software and stuff like that, and it just makes the whole point of, you put, when someone puts a video up, my brain automatically thinks straight away it's a pile of crap, and it could be legitimate. Then you start asking questions in relation to how they actually got to that, that actual video, and everyone starts backing away because I'm digging through the weeds in particular questions, and it's really hard to, I guess, to prove to me on social media or any kind of platform something that is paranormal without either being a party to it myself or having specific parameters examined first. Like, I've got friends out there I trust, and if they show me a picture, it's like, yeah, I believe that happened. But if it's Joe Smith and in Australia, and he's got a picture of a Casper the Friendly Ghost above his fireplace, then you're going to start thinking, okay, well, it's straight away, it's fake. That's it.
And I think because you can kind of, like you said, Peter, create anything on video nowadays, even if you presented a legitimate video of something at a haunting, people are automatically going to think it's fake anyhow, because they just don't trust anything they're seeing on YouTube or TikTok, because they've seen all this fake stuff that people are literally just putting out there for clickbait to get followers, etc.
It is, and it's ironic because when we did our presentation last week, when I was presenting pictures from the various investigations I've done up and down BC, I announced straight out the gate that I don't for 1 minute think that these are paranormal. They're just things that I cannot explain. And I don't classify them as evidence. I classify them as a find, because it's something that I cannot give a logical explanation with my knowledge of cameras and audio equipment that piece of that thing or whatever's on that picture should be there.
Hello from Hurley, Wisconsin, from Tim Smith. Tim, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Here's something I want to touch on. It ties into the whole demonic bit, but the whole concept of there actually being evil, like a force of evil in the world. I, from personal experience, and I know Peter's going to laugh at me, but I covered crime for 10 years as a journalist, and I saw some pretty awful stuff. And I encountered people who I met in one capacity who were really good, who later went on to be charged with some of the most brutal murders that you could even imagine. And so there's a part of me that does lean towards there being nudges in the world towards good or evil. And I think that can kind of play into what people are experiencing. Well, that sometimes maybe you are being pushed by something, etc. I'm not saying I'm full on believing in a devil or a god or anything like that, but I think there are forces for good or evil out there. What do you guys think to hear someone mention something like that who's supposed to be scientific in his approach to investigating? Peter, what do you think?
I agree with what you're saying without going too deep into it. There's good and bad people out there, and that's it. And if you want to define them as being evil, yeah, they are evil. And it's just the way that they function, like their mind, and the way their mind. I can't remember the word now, but the way their mind functions, and yeah.
Tracy, what do you think?
Somebody's mind's not functioning.
It's gone.
60-hour work week, so he's running out of steam. What do you think, Tracy? Do you think there is actually a force out there that could the good and evil?
Here's the thing. Yes and no. Nothing is nothing exists without the opposite of that existing. So it's almost like the flip side of the coin. So in order to have this beautiful, joyous, loving component, there has to be almost like a flip side of being evil. Now, does that mean that there's an evil force? I feel like everybody has a choice to do good or evil, because I don't think there's, in my belief system, you're not born evil. You're born with a propensity to do evil acts or do demonic acts, but you're not born that way. And so then what happens to us creates the other side of the coin. And so, yeah, it's kind of me being fancy again, but we do have to have a little bit of ugly to get the pretty, in a way. So this pen is not a pen without it having the backside of the pen, in a way. So in order, there is that. I also have done some research just with clients and with stuff that, especially in near death, this is where I feel like, I know you're going to talk about near death probably on another episode, but people that have experienced near death, some of them go downstairs, right? And they're in that kind of demonic, sludgy, yucky, scary, growly kind of space. And so then if we're believing that our soul is experiencing this, then they're actually really experiencing something demonic or low vibe or evil. So there's both sides to it, kind of.
It's subjective in sort of how you are interpreting what your experiences is. Peter, I'm going to make you disappear for a second because Doug's got another comment here. TikTok is terrible for false paranormal claims. The more outrageously false, the more views or clicks these creators get. They don't care about the actual research, just the views they get. Amen to that, Doug. And I think that's a big problem with a lot of people in our field right now. And Irma Williams says, hi, Pete.
Hi, Irma.
So before, and here, Tim Smith, hang on. It's energy. There's positive energy and negative energy. Absolutely. I think that's kind of what we're hitting on here. And I think if you're religious, the negative energy is going to be seemed as evil or demonic. And if you're not, you're going to just see it as like a negative energy here. I think our belief system definitely drives a lot of these stories of the demonic perpetuating in society here. But do you think it gives it any less credence for someone to think that? Like, I've heard of cases, you won't believe this, Peter, there, in Kamloops, there is actually an exorcist with a church, with a church. And I've spoken to someone who's been basically your role with this exorcist, and this person has also been to exorcisms that have taken place in Kamloops. And quite a bit of the time, it's almost used as like a placebo for solving another problem. The person is religious, they've got a mental health issue, they've gone ahead and done an exorcism, and the problem has been fixed because that person would believe that it would work. The belief is so strong that it's a kind of a cure. What do you kind of make of statements like that? What was that?
There's this ship porting outside my house. I think that it's kind of a loose question in relation to. Sorry, I got totally thrown off then with that humming noise. Could you repeat that question?
That wasn't much. No, but when someone mentions, like when you hear that someone did an exorcism on someone as a means of just curing another issue, you know what I mean? Because the person's belief was so strong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember what I was going to say now. But originally, the exorcisms were performed in the Catholic Church, and it was more based on self-cleansing rather than the demonic side. It was kind of like the sage and stuff like that, and it wasn't just the exorcising the demon and stuff like that. It was more to do with the well-being and stuff like that. And it's actually demonstrated in different religions as well, that form of exorcism where like First Nations with sage and stuff like that, when they're cleansing and stuff like that as well. That is a kind of a form of that term in the extent of what it's trying to achieve. And again, it's over the time it's become that stigma now of what we know it is, kind of thing where the 1973 movie Exorcist and stuff like that.
What do you think, Tracey, when you heard that story, that anecdote?
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Here's the thing: if some really weird Sanskrit words start appearing in blood on my back, I'm going to be like, well, that's demonic. I'm not saying Sanskrit is demonic, but if something, so for the believer, yeah. But religion has this beautiful way of shaming. Traditionally has had this beautiful way of shaming us into good behavior, their good behavior, and so I'm sure 400 years ago, 500 years ago, it would be a very frightening thing to be told that you're being possessed by a demon. And so you better behave and you better do what the church tells you and you better give your money up and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, demons have been around for a long time. I think there is low vibe energy. Are they demons? I don't know, but they can be scary, I'm sure, for the person that's experiencing them.
I got a trio of comments here that I find quite interesting from Brad Wolf. One, my aunt was possessed. Cool. Every time she ate jalapenos, demons would fly out of her butt. She exercised those demons. Cleared the room.
Yes, right.
Thanks for that chuckle there, Brad, because we're getting towards the end of our show. Any last thoughts on this subject you guys want to give before we call it a night? Or I mean, I think we probably maybe PO'd some people who are hardcore believers. That's not our intention. Everyone is entitled to their belief system, and we're actually not saying that there aren't demons. We're just saying from our experience and the research we've done and the work we've done, which can stretch back in some cases decades, we haven't come across anything that could be called a traditional demonic presence. Not saying that we didn't encounter something that was. It just wasn't portrayed quite the same way.
I believe that demons do exist, but not to the point of what's portrayed on TV and video, on movies and stuff like that. I think most of the demons out there are within ourselves, and there are, like you brushed upon at the beginning of the show as well, there's lots of religions and different cultures that interpret demons in different ways. So for me to turn around and say there's no such thing as demons is kind of a bit ignorant in that respect, even for what I do with the priest the father down in Washington State as well.
Tracey?
Yeah, I think possessions are, in my belief system, I think possessions are absolutely something that can happen by spirit. You can be possessed by spirit. I'm possessed in my job, like I channel in that kind of way. So definitely possession, I feel like, is a different subject than demonic possession. I'm not convinced that there are demons, but I'm certainly open to the possibility because I would never want to discount anybody's experience.
Exactly. And I mean, and Irma Williams has left a comment here, that she says she believes demons are terrifying. And absolutely. And if something like that does exist, absolutely. That would, to me, would be absolutely terrifying. And Peter, speaking of butts, Pete needs to get his to Cape Breton someday. You're all welcome. I have a pull-out couch and I'll put the tea on. Well, we are coming, Doug. Cheers. We're going to take you up on that offer and come investigate with you guys. Well, everyone, that brings a close to our Friday night live chat. I know for a fact I'm going to be back in 2 weeks. I may be having Tracey and Pete with me as well to talk about more spooky stuff. There's lots out there. Have a great weekend. And until next time, stay spooky.